Welcome to session 6 of the Recruitment Business Accelerator program. We're going to cover operations and quality. So we've talked about planning, strategy, staffing, which is the engine room of a great recruitment business, and the area that really determines performance and growth. We've talked about sales and marketing, how to market, how to stand out from competitors, how to provide valuable information to clients and candidates. And now we're going to talk about the foundation, the foundations that really hold everything together, that control the quality of your operations and ensure that you're delivering the very best service to your clients and your candidates. First of all, as I've mentioned before, all recruitment companies say that their biggest differentiator is the quality of their service. And this cannot possibly be true if everyone's saying it. And certainly my experience is that most recruitment firms have very patchy quality control processes. They have consultants that are operating in very different ways. There's not consistency in processes, there's no feedback mechanisms, and there's no business improvement mechanisms that go with their processes. So quality is not a USP, it's something that needs to be mandatory. It's something that every recruitment company should have to 100% level of conformity, performance, and deliverability to clients and candidates. We've talked about this before, but over the years, we've mapped 50 steps in the recruitment process. That's a lot of steps. And we've included a copy of the 50 steps for you in this particular session. But because there's so many steps, there is a big opportunity for things to go wrong. Often, if even one or two of these steps is done poorly, then a problem can occur and a placement may come unwound. So important in delivering the 50 steps is to be training them constantly. I've done training programs for recruitment consultants around each step, one per week, 30-minute training session. Rotate the training to 2 different team members on your staff so that each week one step of the 50 steps is covered in detail, and there's an opportunity for discussion, and more importantly, an opportunity for everyone to be operating at the highest level of quality and improving the way that they recruit. So training is really important as far as the recruitment process goes. And most companies just train people when they first start and then leave them. And before long, people are falling into bad habits, particularly the most experienced recruiters. We tend not to spend much time with them, but they will fall into bad habits. They will be set in their ways, and they'll be resistant to change if they're not constantly challenged in their recruitment process. We need to monitor what's happening in the recruitment process, and you can use your CRM to do that. But also it's important to listen to what people are doing and what processes that they're following. We need to get feedback at the end of each assignment from both clients and candidates. This is the best way to determine whether all steps are being followed and what improvement then is required. So feedback, while sometimes it's quite confronting, is really important because that's how we improve, but also clients and candidates will feel valued if their opinions are asked for. And then finally, we need to constantly be communicating the value of our recruitment process and to be communicating to clients that there is a huge amount of value that goes with the recruitment fees that are charged, that 50 steps are undertaken. It's a very comprehensive process that if clients do themselves, they can easily become unstuck if they don't comply and conform with the huge amount of quality that goes into such a complex process. And that's why recruitment fees are charged, because recruitment is very complex, it's very difficult, and so much can go wrong. I want to talk to you a little bit about terms of business, and I think the terms of business document is very, very important. It's a way of not only building a legal relationship with your clients, but communicating how much goes into the recruitment process as well. I'd really like you to start thinking about using your terms of business as a marketing document, not as a legal document. Of course, you'll have the important legal aspects in your terms of business, but if we're sending clients a 7-page terms of business full of legal jargon, I don't believe that's a great way to establish a relationship. I've personally got my own terms of business when I recruit down to 1 page. I'm not saying you necessarily have to do that, but you just pick out what the most important information is in that document. You know, what are the fees being charged? What happens if things go wrong? Is there a guarantee, or I prefer to call it a replacement policy rather than a guarantee, because there's no guarantees in replacing people. And yeah, just the very key factors on what happens if there is a dispute. All of that really can go into 1 page. And then it means that the relationship right from the beginning is not one of, gosh, I've got to get through all this legal jargon. I might have to send it to my legal team for checking. The legal team see such a big document and then they want to amend it and change it. So I like to have 1 page and include it in a capability statement so that the legal jargon is balanced by, hey, here's what you're going to get for these terms, for these fees. You're going to get a lot of expertise. You're going to get access to a wide pool of talent that's within our network. You're going to get a proven provider of great talent to help you grow and improve your own business by taking on additional quality staff. So keep terms of business simple, put it in with your capability statements as well, so that it is nicely balanced by what you're actually going to do under those terms. And as I mentioned before, maybe change the word guarantee to replacement policy. And I believe that replacement period should be very short. I'm advocating for having no replacement policy because you can't really control what happens once a candidate goes onto client side. You can't control training, induction. You can't really control what actually happens when they're in the seat of their new job. So why should you suffer if it doesn't work out? Anyway, you can have a think about that. And then finally, as I said, terms of business can be a great marketing document, a way in which to bring you closer to your clients and to really re-articulate the value and the complexity of everything that you're going to be providing for those fees and terms that you send over at the beginning of each assignment. Next is the operations manual. In the old days, this was a physical manual that was in a ring binder that every consultant had at their desk. These days, it's usually on an intranet or actually in the cloud somewhere in a shared drive. But it's still important to have. You need to really document what your procedures are. What happens if something goes wrong? What quality requirements are there of each of your consultants? A bank of templates for them to use so that they're not making up their own reference check templates or client brief templates. You want to develop templates that are the very, very best. Job ad templates is another one, and have them in a central place of storage so people can access them, not make up their own templates and then cause quality and then problems to eventuate when they are not using the very best in quality templates. It enables you to track quality control. If you do have an operations manual, we can refer your team back to, hey, here's how we do it, and we do it this way because it's the highest quality service we can provide and we really need to comply with it. Then there's no arguments. You need to be constantly training on this manual as well. It's no good just having an operations manual that's not updated and sitting on a drive somewhere that no one uses. So maybe every time you do training on the 50 steps of the recruitment process, you can be referring and checking and updating the operations manual to check that people know where it is, what's required, and how, most importantly, they need to comply with it to maintain a high level of quality. Because you will be judged on your actions. If things go go wrong, and if poor job ads are written or poor job briefs are taken or poor reference checks are taken, it will come back to bite you in terms of you'll be paying for consultants that aren't making placements, and that's what you do not want to happen. The operations manual can include legal aspects as well. Anything that's important around legislation, around licensing, around privacy is a big one these days. What can be stored, what can't be stored, what questions can be asked, how to avoid discrimination, etc. And then the operations manual can contain ways in which feedback is obtained from clients and candidates. You know, what happens at the end of an assignment? How do you get feedback from each? How do you use that feedback as testimonials in your marketing? Very, very powerful, particularly if you can get short video feedback and testimonials these days. They're very powerful for new prospective clients and candidates. And then finally, you want to make sure that you have a complaints procedure in place. If there are complaints, what happens, how are they handled, how are they escalated, and then and that's all part of that feedback process, which goes into making sure you're continuously improving your business. And continuous improvement is one of those moving goals. You want to be making sure that you have a team that is really dedicated to getting better and better, not being set in old ways, because without improvement, other competitors will be leaving you behind. They'll be doing more innovative things in the way that they deliver their service, and clients want to see new improvements and innovation as well. So you want to really be committed to just adding a little bit, even if it's 10% per year, to improve the way you operate. You will find that gets delivered back to you in increased new and existing business. Next, I want to talk a little bit about your RMS, or your recruitment management system, also called a CRM, or in some cases an ATS, an applicant tracking system. What you want to do is to make sure that that system matches your quality process, not have that system drive your processes. So you need to spend some time mapping out what your quality recruitment process looks like, and then how your recruitment management system will overlay that and be delivering exactly to the level of quality that you require, and ensure also that you're getting reports back to be able to identify how much quality is occurring, or at what level efficiencies are taking place. For example, some of the important ratios you might want to measure to determine the quality and efficiency of your recruitment processes are interview to referral. How many candidates are your consultants interviewing compared to how many are actually being referred to clients, and how many of those referrals to clients are being interviewed by the client? That's a very strong measure of efficiency of your people. Otherwise, you're paying them to waste time with inappropriate candidates that aren't actually being interviewed by clients. And as I've talked about before, the client interview to placement ratio is very important. That's why I believe it's great to have even one single activity measure or KPI, which is to get 4 or 5 great quality candidates in front of 4 or 5 great quality clients every week, and that will result in hopefully 1 placement per week. And this is how you can measure the efficiency of that activity. Client interview to placement ratio is really important. That's another measure of the quality of candidates that your people are putting in front of clients. Jobs filled is a really important one. You don't want your team working on lots of jobs and then not filling them. That's such a waste. They either shouldn't be taking on those jobs, or they should be more efficiently providing quality candidates that match those job requirements, so that your fill rate is 80% or higher. And then finally, you can measure something such as exclusive jobs on. Working on contingent jobs, as we know, with no guarantee of success, can be a huge waste of time, money, and the expense of you paying salaries to people that aren't actually making salaries. So it'd be really good to measure the exclusivity of the jobs that you have, because then you've got much more chance of being paid for the work that you or your team actually perform. Operational support is really important here. So in the whole process of running a recruitment business, the more you can support your people, the more that they can build. You want to take away activities that don't lead to a placement by allowing them and freeing them up to do more in front of clients and candidates, so that the work that they do actually does lead to a placement. One of the rough ratios I've used over the years is having one support person for every 5 billers, a 1-to-5 ratio. That's what is quite a good industry benchmark to look at. And you might think of the alternatives of how to free up billers, how to provide them with resourcing help to allow them to bill more. So, and that's why I've said before, the 360 model, I think it really hampers performance of people if they're doing everything themselves. Not only they might not be good at doing everything, admin, client, account management, new business, sourcing, they might not be good at all of those factors. But if you can free them up to do what they're best at, then they're going to be able to perform better and be more profitable for your business. And so as far as cost goes, the more and more I've gone through the thinking process of the most efficient recruitment business, the more I like outsourcing. It just makes sense to outsource payroll, for example, and not have dedicated staff members in-house managing a big payroll, because for a very small percentage, you can get someone else that does it very professionally for you, and they'll also take on a lot of the risk that's associated with managing payrolls, particularly with high turnover temps or long-standing temps that might technically be employees by law. I think it's really time to outsource payroll, obviously outsource accounting, even bookkeeping now. The bookkeeping programs, Zero MYOB, for example, are so transparent and so easily utilised by someone that's not necessarily on site. They don't need to be on site. And with so much more work from home occurring, we've proven that people can work remotely. So it doesn't matter if they're working from home in the next suburb to your office compared with working from home in the Philippines, for example. There's no difference. As long as there's good communication, there's good procedures, and a good internet connection is obviously really important here. So I'm a big fan of offshoring and outsourcing as much as you can, because it's a lot lower cost, and also you can potentially get a much better quality individual at a much lower price performing the tasks that are required, and they're usually very motivated to keep their job. If they're sick, you don't need to pay them. If they're on holidays, you don't need to pay them. Whereas we've found with full-time work in a full-time workforce in this country, we have a lot of problems with people taking a lot of sick leave, and of course some of it's for good reason. Our flexible working arrangements as far as employment are becoming more and more eroded, and there's very arduous employment requirements on full-time staff who may or may not be productive, and it takes a lot to replace them with better people. That's again why I'm a big fan of outsourcing and offshoring. And then as far as your support goes, you want people that are constantly asking you and challenging you on better ways to operate, and giving you good feedback, and not just handling the compliance work that's required. For example, your accountants, you want them coming up with ideas for you. You don't want them just reporting. You want them saying, hey, I just noticed this when I was producing your financials. And you want them to be giving you ideas to constantly improve your systems and procedures, which is what this session's all about. And then finally, one of the ideas that I came up with way back is that if you are going to spend money on support, you want to think about what the return return on investment is. Just as in marketing, you think about spending marketing dollars and what that's going to deliver you in terms of new revenues and profit margin. It's the same with operational support. If you're going to spend money, you've got to think about what sort of return you're going to get on that particular investment. And I think $1 in cost really should return to you $5 in additional revenues. So a 1 in 5 ratio is a good benchmark to be looking at. And if you look at some of your new cost expenditures, often you might say, well, that's just actually a luxury and it's not going to really return me much in the way of revenue, so let's not do it. Let's put money into something else, marketing or staff development or additional support for my staff by giving them some offshore resourcing support, something that will really deliver more in terms of revenues. And then we need to talk about quality standards. And if we're talking about operations and quality, there's really not much out there to prove that you are a quality recruitment business. Obviously, you want to be constantly communicating to your clients and candidates that you do a lot around quality, and you need to be constantly repeating that message so that it does get out there and people really realise that you do make a big effort and that you are justifying the fees that you charge. I think a code of conduct is a really good place to start and make sure that your staff do sign off on a code of conduct right at the beginning. But also, again, repetition's required. You need to be making sure that code of conduct is continuously communicated so people don't fall into bad habits again. I see some recruitment companies with ISO. You might have heard of ISO 8001 or 14001. The big problem, and I've spent a lot of time over the years with quality standards, a lot of the problem with ISO is that you basically decide what your operating and quality standards are, and then so long as you comply with them each year in the audit that happens, you will be given the QA or ISO standards. So you can set a very low standard of quality and be achieving it easily and put it out there that you're quality assured. And that's what a lot of companies do. And it's really meaningless in my mind, because if you set a low standard and achieve that, what's the point of it? So it's a waste of money, and also I think it actually lacks credibility. And that's why we put together the recruitment industry best practice certification, and you can see the logo here. We wanted to flip it around and really work with a lot of recruitment companies. We worked with the industry associations as well, many senior leaders in the industry, and said, look, here's a checklist of what we believe a quality, high-performing recruitment company should have in place. And there's 50 or so quality items that we've put in this checklist for you to go through. And many of them will be ideas that will improve your business, and you'll think, wow, that'll be a really good thing to put in our business. And so we're prescribing what a quality recruitment company should look like. You go through it. We do a very simple virtual audit to check that you've got some of the most important items in place, and then you have an independently verified quality standard. And you might ask, well, who are we to be the auditor of that standard? Well, we've been consulting to recruitment companies for 22 years now. We really know what quality looks like. We've seen so many recruitment companies in operation. We've seen some of the bad things that can go on, and we're much more qualified than some auditor in a ISO certification company, because we know the recruitment industry so well, and we know what is really expected of a high quality recruitment company. So have a look at that in your attachments to go through and complete best practice certification, because it'll give you a credible and independent qualification to use in your marketing to really prove you are a quality recruitment company. And it's also designed to improve your business as well. So you get a double benefit out of it. Okay, so that's session 6, quality and operations. I hope you enjoyed it. Please complete your session 6 worksheet now to answer specific questions about your business that can be discussed when you complete it. And I hope you've been taking note of some of the actions that you need to put in place in your business. I hope that you've got some great ideas now on what does need to happen to make sure that you are operating a high quality, high performing and professional recruitment business. Thank you very much.